out in the first week?
Yeah, coach, he just killed someone else.
Ref, timeout, September, bring it in.
Yes, coach.
We specifically set a limit to celebrity deaths. Do you remember it?
I do, but why don't you say it so I know that you know?
Whatever the number is, it's in the rear view after killing Gary Wright and Steve Harwell!
Shall I just put my finger and thumb in the shape of an L?
And now Bruce Springsteen is really ill, please. Do nothing.
Or you want me to do nothing?
Why?
The time it took me to say that, a cyclone just killed 21 people in Brazil.
What even is a cyclone?
And Russia and North Korea just teamed up.
Now you have us even closer to World War III. God, you're special.
Thank you.
Not in a good way. Serial killers have escaped prisons in Pennsylvania and London.
Probably want to take that one back.
Why did 2 construction workers smash through the Great Wall of China?
To save time?
And you had scientists grow a model human embryo without sperm or an egg?
Yeah, sometimes you just got to let the talent do its thing.
We are not ready for making people without people!
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Conversations with Taz for Freeform Friday. Eventually, we will be able to get back to the jokey jokes that we normally have on Fridays. But today, the special grand jury report out of Fulton County has officially dropped. So we are going to dig deep into that. So let's get started. Wait a minute. I lost, you know what? I'm always losing the pen. We'll have to do this without the pen. All right. So in the special grand jury report that was released today at approximately 10:15 Eastern Standard Time, keep in mind there were 21 additional people that were recommended to be charged. So this kind of squashes the whole Fani Willis overreached in doing that. No, she didn't. Now, some of the most notable that were included on this list were Lindsey Graham, Michael Flynn, David Perdue, Boris Epstein, Lynn Wood, and Cleta Mitchell. But that's not all that were included. So, you know. Let's get to this list. So we have Cleta Mitchell, Robert Cheeley, Ray Smith, Kurt Hilbert, Alex Kaufman, John Eastman, Kenneth Cheeseborough, David Schaefer, Joseph Brennan, Vicky Consiglio, Carolyn Fisher, Burt Jones, Gloria Goodwin, Mark Hennessy, Mark Amick, John Downey, Kathleen Latham, Brad Carver, Sean Still, C.B. Yadav, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman again, Kenneth Cheeseborough again, Donald Trump, Jenna Ellis, Mark Meadows, David Schaefer, Ray Smith, like I said, Lynn Woods, Lindsey Graham, Sidney Powell, Michael Flynn, William Lagone, David Perdue, Kelly Loeffler, Kathleen Latham, Misty Hampton, Scott Hall, Jeff Clark, Trevion Cuddy, Harrison Floyd, Joseph Bannon, Gloria Goodwin, Brad Carver, Sean Steele. Yeah. Now, regarding why some of them are not the named or indicted co-conspirators, is that some of them may be cooperating and some may have immunity deals. Trump absolutely did not want this report to be seen. And if you didn't hear or didn't know, this is filled with a lot of his closest associates. Now, Cleta Mitchell was on the infamous Raffensperger call and had many communications with Eastman and may plausibly be a witness in the RICO case, but we're going to come back to her in a moment. Now, keep in mind that the special grand jury is filled with civilians. Now, there was one perjury charge that was recommended by the special grand jury, and that was for Robert Cheeley. And they also, within this report, hinted that others may have perjured themselves before them. Now, one notable name that everybody's like, why isn't he being prosecuted? Why isn't he being prosecuted? That is Burt Jones. He cannot be prosecuted by Fonnie Willis because now some people say she hosted, some people say she just attended, but she was at a fundraiser for his opponent, and he is a current lieutenant governor of Georgia. But an investigation may be on the horizon, and some people believe that the person in charge of pursuing the investigation was waiting on this report to become public. Now, when it comes to Lindsey Graham and him not being an indicted and named co-conspirator, is because he no longer believes that the election was stolen, and he has ceased all public defense of Trump regarding the big election lie and pretty much anything since right after Trump was indicted the first time. After he was on TV crying, talking about donate to him, by the time the second indictment came, Lindsey Graham has been silent. The report also discusses the national effort to overturn the results of the 2020 election in specific states. That is why there are senators, people who were senators at the time, listed for consideration. And those senators that were listed are Lindsey Graham, David Perdue, and Kelly Loeffler. Now, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue are no longer congressmen. They lost re-election while being endorsed by Trump. But here's the thing. They were a part of a special runoff election as Trump and them were touting not to trust elections and that elections were fraudulent and stolen. They kind of shot themselves in the foot there. Now, also listed are Trump legal team members. And we know it's a revolving door of people that are on Trump's legal team. You have Cleta Mitchell, Lynn Wood, and Boris Epshteyn. Epshteyn is still active in the whole Trump sphere. Now, Kurt Hilbert and Alex Kaufman, they are Georgia attorneys that helped Trump and his campaign file and litigate in Georgia to overturn the 2020 election results. So a lot of people are like, well, why weren't they indicted? Why weren't they named? 2 weeks ago, Hilbert testified under oath in the evidentiary hearing in federal court. Whose evidentiary hearing? Mark Meadows. He was called by the state to testify against Mark Meadows. So you catching why he wasn't indicted? Now, back to Burt Jones. The person who can appoint a special counsel to investigate has been waiting on this report. And like I said before, the release of this report squashes claims that there was overreach by Fonnie Willis. Those indicted are people who were active co-conspirators. They were actively working to overturn the results specifically of the Georgia election results in 2020. The grand jury also put into this report that any legal errors that they made are not the fault of the DA's office, that the DA did not influence them or advise them in any way. And they wanted to make it clear that no member of the jury was an elections expert, had ever worked in elections, etc. Now, some plausible exceptions as to why some people were not indicted are the speech and debate clause. I'm going to go into that in a minute. People genuinely a part of their job having to fact find regarding the certification of the election. Some people were heavily influenced by the notoriety of those that were indicted, and it became clear that that notoriety was used to unduly influence them. And you also have to realize there are 8 confirmed immunity deals that have been struck, but later this afternoon it was hinted there might be a 9th. Now, regarding the speech and debate clause, the speech and debate clause protects Congress members from lawsuits over legislative speech. The general purpose of the speech and debate clause is to protect members of Congress from having to worry that anything they say in the course of legislative activities will implicate them in a lawsuit. Article 1, Section 6 of the Constitution says that senators and representatives shall not be questioned in court or by the president for any speech or debate they gave or participate in on the floor of the Senate or the House. Now, Lindsey Graham tried to hide behind that previously to avoid testifying, and they were like, true, a lot of your questioning happened on the floor of the House, but some of your comments weren't, and he was able to be forced to testify regarding what he said outside of it. But that's a little tricky, and that's more something that the federal courts would handle as opposed to the states. Now, the grand jury was compiled of 26 residents of Fulton County. Excuse me. They heard a total of 75 witnesses. Evidence and testimony was seen and heard from June to December. And keep in mind that not being indicted by the state of Georgia does not mean that these people will or can avoid federal charges. And one thing that we do not know and nobody's been able to confirm outside of Judge Chutkan, we don't know who's been talking to Jack Smith. We don't know if evidence has been shared between these different jurisdictions and Jack Smith. A quick update that happened today regarding Powell and Cheeseborough. Powell, through her attorneys, requested not to be tried with all 18 co-conspirators. She wants to stand trial with only Cheeseborough and does not want her case moved to federal court. Now, some of the people listed that I read off before were more involved in the national election fraud and not so focused on Georgia. So that also played into why they were not a part of the 19 that were named and indicted. Now, here's a bit of a where are they now, or why did they end up on the list of some notable names that were listed and not necessarily formally indicted. Lynn Wood, the former attorney for Trump, if you remember, he surrendered his law license and is no longer publicly claiming election fraud. Now, I keep saying publicly because we don't know what they're doing behind closed doors yet. Cleta Mitchell continues to advocate the big election lie. Boris Epshteyn is also believed to be unindicted and unnamed co-conspirator number 6 in the Department of Justice case. And that might also be a reason why he's still in the Trump sphere. Lindsey Graham, we know that he made calls weeks before Trump's infamous call with Raffensperger. Raffensperger said that he felt pressured by Trump and Graham. He said that Graham asked if there was a way to set aside votes. Now, Graham has publicly said that that didn't happen, but I think these previous calls from Graham is what finally made Raffensperger start recording calls to and from Trump. So Graham might be able to fly under the radar with that because it doesn't seem like there's a record of what was said on the phone call. There's just a record from what it looks like thus far that the phone calls were placed. And Lindsey Graham has recently and repetitively publicly said that the judicial system should not be politicized. So he might be trying to revamp his image in order to get a cushy deal. Now, Perdue and Loeffler were being investigated as a part of a broader effort to overturn the Georgia election. And keep in mind, neither of them voted. You know, when congressional members were making a big deal, like, we're not going to certify Biden's win. We're not going to do it. Let's take it to a vote. They didn't vote on it. They backed Trump's claims, mostly just vocally. But they did publicly call for Raffensperger to resign when Raffensperger wouldn't hold votes or find votes. Like I said before, 8, possibly 9 fake electors are cooperating with the prosecution, and that's who has thus far received immunity deals. Hilbert and Kaufman were both on the witness list for the Meadows hearing, but only one ended up having to testify. 3 of the co-conspirators listed had 0 votes, meaning that their crimes were so evident that there was no one that was like, no, maybe we shouldn't try them. Maybe they didn't do it. And that was Stephen Lee, Trevion Cuddy, and Harrison Floyd. Stephen Lee is a pastor from Colorado who brought in Trevion Cuddy and Harrison Floyd in order to harass Ruby Freeman because he thought, well, I'm white, y'all are black, y'all will be more relatable to her, and you might be able to sway her to come on over to our side and lie. And what they got no votes on was the charge of criminal solicitation. Now, quick update on the Meadows case. The federal judge still has not ruled, and it is believed that there still isn't a ruling because other people have decided that they wanted to petition the federal court to hear it, and he may just put out judgment all at once. Also, there is no clear precedent for the federal judge to lean on. And a big update coming out of Colorado. I know y'all were questioning it when I first brought up utilizing the 14th Amendment to disqualify Trump from the ballot, and people were like, oh, it's not going to work, this, that, and the other. Trump is shaking in his boots. Here's the update out of Colorado. New Trump attorneys filed a motion with the U.S. District Court to move the case regarding the 14th Amendment against him to federal court. Now, keep in mind, the lawsuit is against the Attorney General to force Trump off of the ballot. Now, moving this case to federal court would speed up the process. Trump got a lot of problems. But just to really drag this home, the 14th Amendment has already been used successfully since January 6th. Let's take a look.
It's Greg, the Uber driver. Today is Thursday, September the 7th. It's about 10:25 p.m. and have I got news for you. There is a case in New Mexico that has been ruled on, and it's a 14th Amendment insurrection case. And we have a judge in New Mexico, Francis Matthew, has decided a case against a local county commissioner from Otero County, who also was president and founder of Cowboys for Trump, who participated in the insurrection on the Capitol on January 6th and videoed it. Got video there on the Capitol where they weren't supposed to be, grounds that no one was supposed to be on, and trespassing and participating in the insurrection and basically making threats against the government. And so the judge decided that this elected official, a county elected official, Coy Griffin, violated the 14th Amendment, Section 3, and that he would be now banned and barred from the county commissioner seat that he was holding and barred from holding any other elected office in the United States. Why is this a big deal? Because this is the first precedent that this has occurred since the Civil War. And this, in turn, can be applied to all of those that participated in the insurrection, on January 6th and leading up to it. And they all can be barred from ever holding political office. Members of Congress, senators, presidents. Trump, yes, that's you. And so this potentially can apply to all. There are actions in many states right now lawsuits in several states actually, to potentially bar President Trump from being on the ballot because of his violation of the 14th Amendment, Section 3. Don't know where it's all going to end up, but this tidal wave is starting, or the dam is breaking, and I have a feeling before it's over with, there's going to be a whole lot of states where President Trump cannot be on the ballot because of his violation of this. And therefore, he won't be able to ever win to be president, even if he's not barred all across the nation. If he's barred from enough states, there's no way that he can win. And not to mention the other members of Congress that have participated in the insurrection if they're proven guilty. So there you have it. So I think that's pretty damn exciting news. Fireworks are starting. They started in New Mexico, going to come all across the country. Have a great night. I think we have something to celebrate.
And I think people forget that the Constitution isn't concrete. It's not as black and white as like the laws regarding you getting a speeding ticket. That's why we have SCOTUS for interpretation. And nobody foresaw a Donald John Trump getting into office and the country allowing him to get this far. So it's time for a corrective action. And we're going to get further into why it's so imperative that we correct this in just a moment. Now, remember, there is the Trump org and Trump family, just those that sit on the board of Trump organization, fraud case. Well, Trump, of course, wants the trial delayed. And how he and the team are going about it, you know what? It's Trump. Just take a look and listen.
Donald Trump's legal team filed a motion in court yesterday to delay the upcoming fraud trial that he is facing in New York that is set to begin on October 5th. So less than a month away, and Trump's lawyers finally realized, we're not exactly ready for this. The filing is about as dumb as it gets, but their legal rationale is not completely stupid. So let me explain what happened. Last week, both Trump's lawyers and the prosecutors, they both filed motions for summary judgment, which of course would mean that they would immediately either find him guilty or not guilty, and then they're just haggling over a price at that point. Unless he's found not guilty, then it's over. The judge has yet to rule on either of those motions. So Trump's lawyers say, hey, we know we're supposed to go to trial October 5th, but what if we push it back 3 weeks? Because, we're waiting on you to, rule on these things that I'm sure you could rule on literally any minute now. But after that, we're going to need like an additional 3 weeks for some reason. Now, again, the reasoning is not terrible there, but their argument is absolutely horrific. Here is the argument they made in their legal filing. A trial of this magnitude should not begin in chaos. The court and the defendants are entitled to know the claims and issues to be tried sufficiently in advance to prepare adequately for trial. The court and the defendants are entitled to know the claims and issues to be tried. Do you not know why Donald Trump is facing a trial? Did you just pick up this case yesterday and you haven't read a single news story in the last 5 years? Because if that's the case, I totally get your legal argument. But as far as I know, Donald Trump hasn't shifted up his legal team in the New York fraud trial. So you're literally telling the judge, like, Judge, first of all, this is chaos. That was your first line. Like, it can't begin in chaos. Second of all, what are we doing? Like, that's their argument. They told the judge, like, hey, Judge, what the hell's going on? Like, what are we doing? Like, what is his charges? Do we need to, we don't know. We don't know. We're not adequately prepared for trial, they're telling us. Well, oops. Like, that's on you. This did not just pop up today. You have filed plenty of motions over the last several months. You filed one last week, and now you're telling us that you're just straight up not prepared? I don't think the judge in this case has any legal reasoning based on the argument put forward by these lawyers for Trump to grant them an extension. They're trying to tell her, like, we're not ready to go, or trying to tell the judge, we're not ready to go, but that's a you problem. You've had more than enough time. You are well aware of the charges, and if you're not, then congratulations. After Trump is found guilty, he can absolutely sue you for malpractice and maybe get some of his money back. Because this is beyond pathetic. And I know this is a big statement to make, this may be the dumbest legal argument I have ever seen a Donald Trump lawyer make in court.
I have encountered some public defenders that were put on cases that were well above their experience at the time, that still did better than this. But this goes back to what I said the other day, that Trump's attorneys, they must be getting some hell of a pep talks, or whatever he puts in his Coca-Cola, he giving it to them too. To go into a place where everybody has the same education as you, goes by the same legal books that you do, and you try to play dumb and outsmart them. Like, yeah, I've watched Matlock do some little shenanigans in the courtroom. We've seen Law and Order. We've seen all of the ADAs throughout all of it, okay? We've watched old girl on Blue Bloods try to pull a look. That's TV. And even still, they didn't play the judges and the other attorneys and the paralegals like they were stupid. We need a delay because we don't know what Trump is charged with. So when you requested the information, you couldn't read it? You couldn't read it? Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and a billy goat. Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and a billy goat. I guess they figured since the other legal team couldn't use the defense of delay the trial till 2026 because there's just so much evidence for us to go through, we need that time. This legal team was like, you know what? I know what'll work. We will play dumb. We don't know what he's charged with. Yeah, that's what we gonna act like we don't know which legal team we're a part of, and we don't know which charge that we're supposed to deal with. Bet, all in. Hey, the fuck? This is why group projects should not be a part of any level of education, because I can tell you this is a collection of motherfuckers who was the ones that still got a passing grade but did nothing but put their name on it or read 2 sentences. Do away with group projects, because this is what they look like when they get into the adult world. Hey, I tell you, sometimes when I'm going through reading this stuff, I have to pinch myself to make sure this is not a fever dream. Like, what part of the multiverse are we stuck in? Like today, Minnesota decided that, hey, if 16 and 17-year-olds want to pre-register to vote to make things easier for them, especially if they have plans on going out of state to college, or they're going to take a job that, might make it a little difficult, or where they currently live is difficult, they can. When the story broke, the comments surrounding that, why? 18-year-olds just want their college debt paid off. Baby, they're just accruing the debt. Raise the age to like 25 or 26 when they're off mommy and daddy's insurance. Yeah, that's when they would want their student loan debt forgiven, because that's when it would come due to pay. And then other people were like, they need to get tested in civics and the Constitution because they already have their political views. They need to understand this. Do you understand what civics is? This is why we have a person running for president right now who admitted that he failed every civics course he ever took, but he's currently a U.S. congressman. Tim Scott, I'm talking to you. People aren't mature enough to vote at 18, but they want to fight for them to be able to buy guns at 18 and go off to war at 18 and get married at 12 and give birth at 10. Make it the fuck make sense. But they're mature enough to give birth, but not mature enough to choose an abortion. I can't. I'm sure future generations are going to look back at this like, is this satire? Is it? They're going to look back at this like that one episode of Tales from the Hood where all this chaos was going on in the city, and come to find out the earth wasn't really the earth, and the city wasn't a city. It was just a playhouse, a toy for an alien child. That's how future generations are going to look back at this. Like, ain't no way. Ain't no way. Yeah, it's a whole nother way. Unfortunately. Now, before we get into talking about Project 2025, every cult has levels. Whether it's like the cult of Scientology, and you pay to get onto those different levels, or you're just convinced, like Stargate and Mr. Jones's cult. The Magadonian cult this past week have unveiled 2 new levels. We're going to start with the most extreme level, and we're going to end with the dumbest level. That's the best way I can describe it. Don't say I didn't warn you. Oh, and all you Trump supporters that like to watch the podcast after it's live and you're blowing up my notifications with comments, do realize I don't, after the podcast is no longer live, I don't read comments. I don't go back. I don't give a shit about your opinion. Should have shared it while I was live. Anywho, here we go.
Go, Joe, go, go.
Well, that was weird as fuck. So that happened during the national anthem of a game between the Detroit Tigers and the New York Yankees. You know, MAGA gets really defensive. You know, every time you call them a cult. What is this? What is this behavior? This is not cult-like behavior to you? Anyways, if any of you guys do happen to have a Kool-Aid party, I think this is the reaction of the news a lot of people are going to have.
Oh no, I'm devastated.
Watch this. I'll be right back.
I don't have any hard evidence on this, but I do believe that on 9/1/2023, a certain someone signed a big check of trillions of dollars to pay off our national debt.
Okay.
Here's your intel for tonight. As of last week, this was... Actually, I believe it was set to happen on September 1st. So I got...
She's saying that Donald Trump who famously hasn't paid his debts and owes his lawyers money, who are currently defending him, who is literally selling, merchandise with his mugshot to raise money for his lawyers, that Donald Trump, who famously inflated his value and worth, wrote a check for $21 trillion to pay off the national debt.
Sorry to cut this off. Sorry. But I have breaking news. Breaking news. The federal judge has denied Mark Meadows' request to move his case to federal court. Once again, the federal judge has denied Mark Meadows' petition to move his case to federal court. Now, when we get done here, I'm going to run over to see if I can find those transcripts. You're going to jail. You're going to jail. Okay, hold on. Where is the... Ooh. Hold on. I'm going to... All right, there we go. We got a little bit of it here. The court determines, as a matter of fact, making a request to the Georgia Secretary of State's office regarding a possibility that the Trump campaign could provide financial resources to fund the recount effort, even if not directly on behalf of the campaign, is still campaign-related political activity. That's one part of it. Ugh, how do I? Okay, there we go. I'm rewinding and fast forwarding. Sorry, you guys. Okay. The court concludes that Meadows has not met even the quite low threshold for removal. Sucks to be him. So it looks like two of the witnesses for the state that were included in this report, they did the thing. But back to the whole cult video with Donald Trump paid off the debt. Then why? GOPers, why are you still complaining about the price of everything? So, because shouldn't have everything gone down if we got more money to spend? That's how they look at things. And then this whole Trump or death, 1776 to 2024. Are you fucking kidding me? I can't. Oh, Mark is definitely going to flip because let's take a roll back. When his little hearing was going on, remember I brought to y'all the fact that he wanted it moved to federal court so he could try to request an immunity deal. But as we found out today from the special, there were immunity deals on the table. And just like we learned the other night regarding the Proud Boys, the plea deals were on the table, and these people were just so in their mind. Trump's got my back. Trump's got my back. I'm above this. I'm above this. They're turning stuff down. And now they're like, oh shit, they were for real. They really doing this. They really holding us accountable. Like they see us, right? We white. Yeah. Yeah. It's 2023. It ain't 1823 no more. It's not. It's a new day. It's a new dawn. And we're feeling blue. What? I look very tiny in this shirt, in this background. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to stay focused. Y'all know my brain is spicy. Okay. Now, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Let's get into Project 2025. I'm going to play the videos. I'm going to try to keep the commentary short. But this is a long one. So if you need to cut up the volume and go get some more snacks, get another beverage, knock yourself out. But here we go. And keep in mind, it's 2 videos.
you might have seen there's this big New York Times story today, big story, very important story, about how the leading Republican presidential candidate, Donald Trump, and Republicans more broadly, have this plan that they want to put in place if the Republican Party wins the presidency in 2024. They're calling it Project 2025 because this is a plan that's supposed to go into effect upon the inauguration of Donald Trump in 2025. Either Trump or some other Republican president gets inaugurated in January of 2025, and Project 2025 thereby goes into effect. This plan is being coordinated by a right-wing think tank called the Heritage Foundation, and it is a plan to radically change the form of governance that we have in the United States so as to concentrate all the power of the government in the hands of a single leader. Quote, our current executive branch was conceived of by liberals. What's necessary is a complete system overhaul. Quote, what we're trying to do is identify the pockets of independence inside the U.S. government and seize them. Seize them. So there won't be any more pockets of independent power outside the power that is held by the president. Now, as I said, they want this to be Donald Trump. They want him to be the guy in whose hands all this power is concentrated. But they say they would plan to do this with any Republican president. The plan is to change the structure of the U.S. government so the next president, the next Republican president, will take direct control of all state power. He would, for example, take over all federal law enforcement and run that directly for his own benefit through the DOJ. There would be no more independence of federal law enforcement. The next president would take control of private business in this country for his own benefit through the powers of the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. The next president would revive an old and, I should say, illegal practice called impoundment, which would basically take away the fundamental powers of Congress and put that power, too, in Trump's hands. Again, identify the pockets of independence and seize them. So instead of checks and balances and limited government, we'd have more of a strongman system of government. We'd have a single leader with all the power of the state personally arrogated to him. No other part of the government, no other thing in the country at all would be allowed to constrain him. That sounds nice. It at least sounds simple. That said, it is obviously fundamentally opposite to the whole idea of why we exist as a country in the first place. And I think it's no surprise to see an article like this, to see reporting like this in the Times today. I think everybody sort of knows that this is where the American political right, where the Republican Party has been heading in the Trump era. But still, I think the reason this reporting today is getting so much attention and causing so much consternation is because, however much this might be the dream of the Trump era right wing in American politics, for the most part, the American people really don't want this. And so it's one thing to sort of see it hinted at or to feel like this is the kind of system they'd like to replace our system with. It's another thing to see it in black letter print, right? To find out that they've put a name on it, that it's a project that has an implementation date and they're getting it ready. I mean, in general, by and large, the American people don't want to live under a single leader who has concentrated all power in his own hands and nothing constrains him and nothing else matters other than his own whims and preferences and grudges. You don't want to live in a country under a leader like that who's a good guy, let alone a leader like that who's a bad guy. I mean, you don't have to be a civics dork to know that you don't want that. and I think by and large, the American people really don't.
Project 2025, 100,000 beds, Trump and veterans. By now you've probably heard of Project 2025, the Conservative Promise and the Presidential Transition Plan. These documents and the plans expressed within carry the hallmarks of theocracy, inhumanity, and the distinct stench of fascism. Embedded in Project 2025 is a proposal for a congressional mandate to fund an additional 100,000 beds dedicated to alien detainees. Except the numbers don't make any sense. Syracuse University is tracking immigration and detention facts, and according to their data, 32,743 individuals are presently held in ICE detention, of which 66.1% have no criminal record. Many more only have minor offenses, such as traffic violations. So the fascists are either expecting an onslaught of immigrants who want to come across the border into a nation that is quickly devolving, or something else is afoot. As an aside, it doesn't really matter whether the 2024 election falls in favor of Trump, DeSantis, Ramaswamy, or any other Republican. To the Heritage Foundation, ALEC, and any right-leaning religious zealot, any Republican is good enough to see their agenda come to reality. Several creators have already alluded to the fact that the theocrats will round up the LGBTQ and BIPOC communities, as they have left zero doubt about their agenda in various red states. Add to that any woman who does not fall in line, and you are getting a pretty good picture of who may end up in any one of those beds, regardless of the originally expressed intent that these beds are set aside for immigration detainees. Except we are not even done yet. Here's Trump.
Perhaps some people will not like hearing this, but the only way you're going to remove the hundreds of thousands of people, and maybe throughout our nation, millions of people we're talking about, and help make our cities clean, safe, and beautiful again, is open up large parcels of inexpensive land in the outer reaches of the cities, build permanent bathrooms and other facilities, make them good, make them hard, but build them fast, and create thousands and thousands of high-quality tents, which can be done in one day. And you have to move people out.
The number of homeless or unhoused is annually assessed through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The PIT, or point-in-time count, takes place in January, and the latest data shows that more than 500,000 people in the United States are experiencing homelessness. These Americans live in temporary shelter situation or transitional housing, or sleep in places not meant for human habitation. For your inhumanity trivia, 47 out of 50 states have some variation of anti-homelessness legislation on the books, from camping to loitering to sleeping in public or solicitation. And to boot, we have an unacceptably insufficient services structure, so the United States are designed to criminalize homelessness. In 2023, 67,495 of the homeless individuals were homeless veterans. And veterans in the US are 2 times as likely to become homeless versus those who did not serve in the military. So in case you're wondering now who might end up in any one of those 100,000 detention beds flagged as an enemy of the state, take your pick between immigrants, BIPOC, LGBTQ, the homeless population, and while you're at it, please thank a veteran. The bottom line here simply is this: vote blue, or simply acknowledge that you will inevitably contribute to what will most likely turn into a contemporary version of genocide.
There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Let us jump into what happens when a cult takes over a nation.
What's going to happen to America after MAGA and Trump are gone? And that led me down a path of wondering, well, how did Nazi Germany, after, Hitler was gone, how did they reintegrate with the Jews that survived, and the soldiers that were still there and came home from prison and things like that? How did Germany heal and move on? So I found this article on commentary.org. It's entitled "The Aftermath of Nazi Rule Report from Germany," and this was dated October of 1950. Perhaps the most striking and frightening aspect of the German flight from reality is the habit of treating facts as though they were mere opinions. For example, the question of who started the last war, by no means a hotly debated issue, is answered by a surprising variety of opinions. An otherwise quite normally intelligent woman in southern Germany told me that the Russians had begun the war with an attack on Danzig. This is the only crudest of many examples. Nor is this transformation of facts into opinions restricted to the war question. In all fields, there is a kind of gentleman's agreement by which everyone has a right to his ignorance under the pretext that everyone has a right to his opinion. And behind this is the tacit assumption that opinions really do not matter. This is a very serious thing, not only because it often makes discussion so hopeless, but primarily because the average German honestly believes this free-for-all, this nihilistic relativity about facts to be the essence of democracy. In fact, of course, it is the legacy of the Nazi regime. Indifference and the irritation that comes when indifference is challenged can be tested on many levels. The most obvious experiment is to state expressis verbis, what the other fellow has noticed from the beginning of the conversation, namely, that you are a Jew. This is usually followed by a little embarrassed pause, and then comes not a personal question such as, where did you go after you left Germany? No sign of sympathy such as, what happened to your family? But a deluge of stories about how Germans have suffered, and if the object of this little experiment happens to be educated and intelligent, he will proceed to draw up a balance between German suffering and the suffering of others, the implication being that one side cancels the other, and we may as well proceed to a more promising topic of conversation. Similarly evasive is the standard reaction to the ruins. When there is any overt reaction at all, it consists of a sigh followed by the half-rhetorical, half-wistful question, why must mankind always wage wars? The average German looks for the causes of the last war, not in the acts of the Nazi regime, but in the events that led to the expulsion of Adam and Eve from paradise. So what it sounds like is the majority of Germans try to continue to make up, their own rationalization of how everything transpired. And I don't know if
Now, I love her content. But this is one of those instances where I need white women to stop white womening. There was no need to go to Nazi Germany to get your answer. We live it. We see what's going to happen post-Magadonian Trump every single day. Look at what we've been living with post-slavery, post-Civil War, post-Reconstruction, post-Black codes, post-Jim Crow, post-concentration camps. We call them internment camps in the United States. Post-genocide of Native Americans. We know that they're going to flip the narrative. We know that they're going to make themselves the victims. We know that the truth will not come out of their mouths until they see the tunnel with the light at the end of it. And then they're going to make a bunch of deathbed confessions to CNAs, RNAs, and LPNs. There was no reason to go to the country that learned from the United States how to be racist. That's no different than going to a child, regardless of their age, minor or adult, and asking them about the life and lived experiences of their parents. We already know what to expect. We're living that expectation now. The daily barrage of, but the Irish were slaves too. But black people owned slaves. But I'm Mediterranean. I go through the same thing. There is nothing new on this planet. There are just new methods of spewing it. Why do you think every racist has the exact same story about being beat up by a group of black people? Why do you think the exact same talking points that are against black people or against Native Americans or against Asian people or against drag queens or against the LGBTQIA plus community? There's nothing new. There will not be anything new until we get out of this Groundhog Day of history, because history is being refused to be taught and refused to be learned. Are you for real still snoring? You just didn't care. The boogeyman in the dark could have came and got me, and you just sleep. Just snoring. You better not let Precious see you. You over here cuddled up a princess. And I'm telling, I am snitching. I am snitching. Hold on. And just wait a second. Here she go. I can't lift her all the way up because he got a hold on her. Shenanigans. But no, I would really appreciate if people would stop trying to go to other countries and compare the United States to the history of other countries. Because the United States, although it touts itself, self-proclaimed greatest place, the United States, you're a dumb teenager compared to the rest of the globe. But the influence of the United States in other places is not good. We know other places are fucked up because of this country. This country is just like tyrannical Christians. Want to run up in everybody else's house and tell them what they doing wrong and not respect their traditions, their anything. Fuck all that shit up and then go, I don't know why they're in chaos. This is why I had to tell somebody today. And I know they had the best intention on one of my history posts. And they're like, oh, I wish I had the resources. You do have the resources. If you made it here, share the content. Spread the word. So stop going to other countries. This is what's going to happen to us after that. No, that's what the fuck is happening to us right now. Shit. Oh, Miss Arena. That's the video we're closing out on. Yep. I had about 10 people send it to me, and I know that if I would have commented on this video on TikTok, I would have been banned again. Great minds, girl, great minds. So yeah, even when they make safe spaces, there's always a white man watching and lurking. Let's roll this beautiful footage. Well, not so much beautiful. The ladies are gorgeous, though.
You guys, did you know in Japan they have women-only carriages? It's like Saudi Arabia in here. I'm the women inspector, checking there's only women on this carriage. Yep. There's only women here. Cool, no men. I don't see a single man in sight. Yep, check complete. It really is a women-only carriage, guys. Wow.
The sheer entitlement. The sheer entitlement. But as I said previously, there is a subset of men who really believe that every body on the planet belongs to them. That's why they think it's so funny to wear the shirts that are like bikini inspector, and they really believe it. And as much as they try to say, and it's always the broke ones that believe somebody's digging for gold that they don't have. They don't even have fool's gold. That want to make everything transactional and then accuse women of being transactional. Because has anybody else noticed that broke men didn't start calling women gold diggers until women stopped giving free labor and their coins to men? When there was a mass exodus from young ladies allowing men to drive their cars while they were at work, we became gold diggers. When women stopped visiting men at their houses going, "Ooh, sweetie, let me clean this kitchen for you. Ooh, you ain't got this. Let me get this for you." We became gold diggers. When a man couldn't just stop by our house and get a hot meal because he didn't know how to cook or he didn't have money to get takeout, we became gold diggers. No different than when Black people became lazy. But we're gold diggers and we're so transactional. But you still have men today getting mad to my, if your girl come over your house and sees that you missing stuff and she ain't trying to give it to you, then why does, if you already know what's missing in your home, why aren't you getting it? Why do we need to make you comfortable? I can get up and go home and be comfortable with everything that I need. Just like men like that will say, well, women, create your own safe spaces and then bitch and complain. Like when the young ladies created a nightclub just for women. Well, who's going to protect you? We don't need protection from each other. Well, why can't we come in? Because you're the problem. And you say it. If we don't feel safe around y'all, create safe spaces. We create safe spaces. You get in. And the amount of men that are like, well, if we did it, they would be suing to get in. No, we don't. And y'all already do it. You have all boy, all male secret societies. You have all male clubs and organizations. We want no parts. We want no parts. We don't even want to go to your frat parties, but y'all bug the fuck out of us until us and our sorority sisters show the fuck up. Because when we have our brunches and shit, we don't tell you. We don't want you there. Hell, we still mad at Becky from 3 years back who told her brother and her cousin that she was like this with that we was doing Sunday brunch. Ain't nobody fighting to get in y'all shit. It's dirty, it's nasty, it smells. Y'all always trying to slip stuff in drinks and food. You're sticking your hands where your hands don't belong. You're all up in personal space, but you can't clean the personal crevices on your body. Because trust me, if being gay was a choice, there would not be a straight woman left. The fuck? at you. We got to go in like you all are part of the produce section. We got to find the one that looks the ripest, the one that might last the longest and not give us food poisoning or bubbly guts. We got to tap y'all on the head, spin you around, flip you upside down. And then we got to put more care and energy into you than we do our pets. You motherfuckers been on the planet for 70,000 years and still can't make a goddamn doctor's appointment. You don't even know where your credit union is. But we still in... Baby, if we were gold diggers, do you know how easy it would be for us to change everything that's in your name over to ours? But that's right. The only thing that's in y'all motherfuckers' names consistently is your social media profiles. Because any man with money ain't worried about spending money. Ain't worried about doing for somebody. Because he know this motherfucker don't want to be with his creepy crawly ass. He got to come with a benefits package. Shit. Hell, Trump been stealing money for decades so he could keep a woman close enough to his soiled diaper. We ain't waging war over you. We got Helen of Troy, not Heath of Troy. Motherfucker stopped for Lady Guinevere. Did nobody stop for Sir Glenn? Y'all are the same subset of humans that will see a woman damn near dying and be like, did you wash my uniform? What's for dinner? Did you call that in for me? Motherfucker, come close. Come real close. Because if I'm going to go, you going with me. We just going in two different directions. All up in our space. Because I promise you, if there was a woman standing outside of that train and it said men only, she wouldn't have been shocked. She wouldn't have taken a video. And she wouldn't have walked through the train. And he's also a perfect example of men refusing to read the room. None of those women looked comfortable. But see, when a motherfucker like that gets locked up abroad, then his parents, he was such a good boy, he's so respectful, bring my baby home. It's trumped up charges. No, he's a menace to society. Let him stay. Because as a mother of four, let one of my kids go cross any of these ponds and act a damn fool. You ain't gonna see me on the news. If you do, this is what you'll hear. I don't know why he did that dumb shit. He knew that there are laws over there. I even reminded him of them. I wrote it down. I texted to him. I emailed him. I taped it to the inside of his suitcase and I pinned it to his shirt. He still wanted to do it. Y'all don't waste no resources. He gonna be there for a while. He gonna be there for a while. And if you're gonna criticize me, cool, that's fine. That is fine. But my kids range from 22 to damn near 30. What they do now, they have decided on their own. And if they decide to be stupid, that's where they at. Stupidville. Fuck a Margaritaville. You staying. I'm not going to be like these white mamas who they know their sons are spies or engaging in sex tourism. And when their kids get caught up, they want to petition the president and talk shit online. Fuck that. You grimy little bastard. You wanted to be like the motherfuckers that you hated when you was growing up? You want to be like the motherfuckers that you was telling me that you would beat up, that was disrespecting me? Sit there. Sit down. Get comfy. You made that bed. Now, anywho, as always, make sure you check out the links in the description of the video. I also want to let you all know, starting Monday, every week, there is a new category on this page for the anti-racism journey. So there will be more in-depth history shared over here. And instead of doing an official book club, I will take the book and break down the history chapter by chapter. Like I said, once a week, every Monday over here. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure you click the bell and turn on notifications so that you know when it drops. So yeah. But I do want to leave you all with this, a little bit of sunshine in your life. Yes, 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 yes. So I will see you all Monday. Enjoy your weekend. If you follow me on TikTok, be prepared for Sunday's journal prompt. And whenever he wakes up and gives y'all another video, I cannot believe the shade and shenanigans. I bet your father ruffled his treat bag. For real? You got an extended snort? You motherfucker. But as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Enjoy this last clip.
Everybody hands go up, go up, go up, go up, go up, go up.